Hello and welcome to another episode of Software Should Be Free with myself, Tim Abel, and my co-host, David Sheardown. So we don't have any particular agenda today because it's very strange times, so we're really just going to have a catch-up. So, hello, David.
Hello. And indeed, I think that's probably the best thing, isn't it? Not to have an agenda because nobody knows what the agenda is anyway. It could change tomorrow.
Yeah. I mean, there's a couple of things I'd like to talk about from my side. One is COVID, obviously. I have just finished my contract at the Department for Education after 2 whole years, which is pretty crazy. I thought I'd have 3 months there. And I've learned a few things that I'd like to share. Yeah, what about you?
Sorry, sorry, you have to stop on that. Has it
2
really
years?
been 2 years?
2 years, yeah. April 2018, that started.
Wow.
Like, here, come and build this .NET website. And as you know, that became a Ruby on Rails website when I wasn't looking.
Yeah. Is it now Python or Go, maybe? Maybe it's changed.
I did suggest that we should rewrite it in Go because we finished rewriting it in Ruby and it wouldn't be any fun if there wasn't a rewrite going on. That was sadly poo-pooed. How much as I like Golang.
Yeah. Wow. But so were you meant to be there for another 3 months, did you say?
So my compadre, who is the only other remaining .NET developer, has extended out. I basically made it clear that I wasn't planning on extending, which possibly is foolish given IR35 and COVID and everything. But in my usual overconfidence, it's not really the right thing for me anymore in terms of, if I'm primarily selling .NET things, there's only so long I can be on a pure Ruby on Rails project before people are wondering what I'm up to. And also, people have been really nice. I've got some wonderful compliments off the back of that. I don't know if you saw the LinkedIn post.
I did. Yeah, that was actually really nice, actually. Yeah.
So it's really nice that people have appreciated that I've brought some value along the years. But I do feel that was perhaps dropping off because the C# code base is now completely gone. It's been entirely rewritten.
Right.
And it's gone from a stage where it was really early days of DfE Digital. Like, it wasn't really clear that the whole thing was going to be a long-running department, really. Like, it was there to prove itself. It had a new project to try out and ship their first piece of homegrown software, as I understand it, as opposed to outsourcing. And it was a question of move fast, needing those kinds of people who can not just do what they're told, but ask the right questions and build just the right things. It's a bit of a different thing to now. Now there's a project. It's been live for a while. It's pretty clear what it does, and it can just go into ongoing work of filling in features, improving it, iterating on top of feedback. And I feel like because I'm sort of able to operate in those slightly more challenging environments, I should be doing work in those environments to get the best value. So it's for a whole bunch of reasons, it seemed like a good time to move on.
Yeah. I would say that because with myself, not that I do coding on a day-to-day basis, as you know, well, not as a living. I still do that, but certainly I think that's my sort of thing as well. Is that you can, if you move out of your core competency for too long, for me personally, it's really quick. It slips away, and that's not to be in a panic about, because we're always constantly learning. We've always got more to learn. Let's face it, they're throwing stuff out left, right, and centre, aren't they? So, but you sort of have to be in that environment, and because I'm sort of dipping in and out a little bit, doing a little bit here, a little bit there, bit of a hobbyist as well. It's you don't get that. There's obviously a complete level up of what you just don't get unless you're in that, like you say, a challenging environment. I don't think I'd survive in a challenging environment like that anymore. But well, in coding side, I mean, what I do is different challenges, but at the same time, that it's an interesting sort of push, that, wasn't it? Because look, I understand, that there can be these essentially tech religious wars, can't there, between platforms, environments, and such, which I've never got. I've honestly, I don't get. I because the strengths and weaknesses really only show when you're neck deep and in the trenches, and what will be great for one sort of platform will be really bad for another, or it'll mesh somewhere. But you know what I mean? Everything's got its strengths and weaknesses, and I appreciate if people need to do it and if they've got the same skill sets. But I guess I don't understand the religious war aspect of it, because ultimately, all platforms have got their issues.
They certainly do.
Yeah, but interestingly though, your .NET world was obviously, I don't know why I'm asking this, it's just curious, but was that SQL based, I'm guessing, underneath, wasn't it, from a database perspective?
In that project, it was Postgres. Yeah.
Oh, it was Postgres with .NET.
Yeah, unusually, which has been kind of convenient. It's a nice database. I wonder if it was chosen, so that was chosen before I started, and that might have been because they had a spatial component.
Of course. Yeah,
it might be just because it's the best database.
Now we're talking. So, was the Progress database kept when you moved to Ruby then?
Yeah, it's still Postgres. It's moved. So when we started, it was because it was a bit of a skunkworks project. It was I hadn't heard of it before. It's Red Hat. I've got a platform. I think it's called OpenShift.
OpenShift. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That was pretty good, actually. So it was all on there. DfE is mostly a Microsoft shop. So after a little while, after sort of proving that we could ship a thing and sort of allowing the enterprise to start to absorb this new thing, the hosting got moved onto Microsoft Azure.
Right.
But again, Postgres for Azure.
Right. Postgres for Azure. Yeah, because I noticed, I did see something last year sometime, I think, that Postgres became a first-class citizen, didn't it, of Azure hosting. It wasn't just something you just stuck on a VM. It was actually now a thing where it's got managed hosting, essentially, isn't it? So, yeah.
Yeah, and it's been pretty good, actually. They do manage backup, so you can get a snapshot of your Postgres database. It's pretty often. It's like every 15 minutes or something, and you can, when you want to grab an old copy, it's quite a clever system. It's not very quick, but it's quite clever, where you basically tell it what point in time. So you just do a date picker. Oh, I want a backup from 3 weeks ago, and it grinds its gears for quite some time, and then eventually it spins up another database with a name suffix for the date that it was, and then you can just connect to it like you connect to the current one. Pull down the data, move it. It's pretty good, actually. Yeah,
because I did see something, but now thinking back, it has been a while, with snapshots in Microsoft SQL, where it did something, but I think that was obviously an additional tool. I don't think it was sort of built into like Management Studio or something like that. It did something where it pulled back that from a snapshot that it was taking, but I'm guessing
we used it on a project that we probably shouldn't mention at the moment, and we were using it to repeat the builds. So we could take a snapshot of like a current version of the database, then use a SQL Server snapshot to give that as a baseline, and then run all the migrations, and then you could revert to the snapshot instantly. That's a SQL Server feature, but you're right, it's not exposed in Management Studio, which is a bit odd. I think once you've made a snapshot, I think you can see them. Right. You can't actually do them, so you need to run some SQL. I've got scripts up on the gist.github.com/timable, I think, where you can that puts that into proper scripts to taking snapshots and rolling back, because it's a bit fiddly to get the syntax right.
I was just about to say, I think I remember that, and even when I've done it on another project, which I equally won't mention, but not to do with the one I think you're thinking of, but anyway, something else. But it was possible to do it, like you say, because I do remember it was the baseline snapshot applied the migrations from EF or whatever it might be. But it sounds like the Postgres one is, even though, like you say, it might grind its gears a bit, but it seems to be, more elegant.
Yeah, it does the job.
Click and
yeah, not too much fun if you're in a panic because production was down, like sitting and waiting for it to hopefully bring this thing. But it did work.
Look, whenever production's down, when anybody isn't in a panic, I think that's probably the key. But that's an amazing sort of. I still can't believe it was 2 years, but it sounds like it's been an interesting journey. But I definitely get your point about, if you're not competency, that sort of thing, but if your world is
the thing you're selling, really.
Yeah. It is, isn't it? It's great to do these things, and that's why I think you're right. Things like other maybe Go and things like that are still equally great, but again, it's weighing those up, isn't it? Where you're best to be focused, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't been bored over the last 2 years.
No, I bet.
It's been quite a journey, because it's gone from building this rough prototype, trying to get to the point where we could switch the original UCAS systems off. And then the moment we kind of got our head above water with that over the first year, we made this decision to switch to Ruby. And then that's been a big thing. There's been some other like feature stuff that's had to happen along the way. Like I say, I've learned some really interesting things along the way that are probably worth sharing. So one of them is how the transition was made between these two completely independent stacks. And I have to say, because it's like super risky doing a rewrite, because you can either start a new one in parallel, and then it never catches up to the features because the old one still has to be maintained. It gets another feature, then you have to add that to the new one, and now you're split on resources, and that's really difficult. And runs a massive risk of failure because the new one never catches up to the old one, especially if it turns out to be not quite as good in some way. The other way is to like down tools on the old one, build a new one. There's probably some other ways. But maybe you could fill those in. But I'll tell you what was done on this project, which I thought was very, very good and worked very well, was to actually, because this is a web project, was to run the two side by side. And we've done this twice because there's actually two websites for this project. There's a public facing, and then there's a one kind of a extranet kind of thing for people to make edits. So a second subdomain was spun up. The new Ruby on Rails service ran on that. And then this is the rather magical trick. So for the public one, there was no authentication, so that made life a bit easier. When any individual page was available in the new Ruby on Rails stack, we added a little redirect piece of code to the old .NET stack. So as a user clicked from one page to the next, if they hit something that had been rewritten, it would bounce them over to the other subdomain. And then on the Ruby on Rails side, likewise, once they clicked off that, it would redirect them back. So they'd bounce between the two subdomains, which to a user is pretty transparent. Like it looks the same, and it's just a www or www2, which is probably not unusual.
I was going to say masked or not. It doesn't really matter.
No, not even masked, just out there in public. And then over time, more and more of the pages go, more and more of the features are implemented, and then switch off the old one, move the domains back, and bam, you're on the new one. And it meant that when there was a bug, you could fix it on whichever side it was, and you didn't have to fix it in two places. When you added a new feature, you just added it on the new side. It worked really well. And so the private one was trickier because it had authentication. It was done using, it's called OpenID Connect. Have you come across that?
Oh, yeah. I've used it, actually. Yeah.
Confusing.
Yeah.
Someone described it as a framework for writing sign-in systems or something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, I've come across it with another cloud hosting development platform. Yeah, so it could be a bit of a
Yeah, but that was able to work seamlessly. So when a signed-in user was bounced to the other side, it would go and I'm not sure how it worked exactly, but it would go and get a fresh token from the sign-in server, and they'd be signed into both, and it just worked. So I'd say if I was ever looking at rewrites again, I'd look to emulate something like that. Like
that's actually quite a clever way, because, like you say, you've got the two platforms running side by side. That generally you've got the fallback there. Like I say, I can understand especially with things like OAuth or something like that with tokens and fresh tokens and all that sort of stuff. I suppose that's why I can understand there's probably a level of trickiness there. But even then, once you've got over that, you're right. That's quite a nice way. It's like a meshed web of going forward, isn't it? And then, like I say, you could simply switch off the old one at some point.
Yeah, so like by far the best I've seen. Really testament to the team that they've had. It's been funny because since quite a while ago, me and the other .NET developer were the longest standing people on the team, and literally everybody else on the team had rotated out since we'd started. So by the time we finished, we were actually in a completely different team of people to the people we started with, which was kind of surreal. But
sort of like migrated through.
But just as nice a team from start to end. Like whoever was doing the filtering on like team fit and culture did a stonking job. Like no difficult people in there at all. Right, it was really great.
That I was just about to say. I was going to ask that actually, is because different mentalities of developers as well. .NET versus Ruby. Now, I'm just saying. There can be. You can have those personalities, can't you? Of course, that can grate. Let's just say that. But
I don't know if you heard the noise there. This is the working from home, as it were.
Come on. Do you know what? I'll just add in the call here that I think Monday I was in a conference call with about 20 people, right? And I won't mention the company names or anything, but it was a large company, large international company, should we say. So we had lots of people on video and everything, and we had one of the senior project management, really nice lady, but she was sat there with a little baby on a sort of knee,
lovely.
Trying to, and it's sort of like a new world, and you think, okay, there are some aspects there that you when you need to focus on stuff, but it really actually. I came away from that call thinking, it's a more human way of doing this.
It is. Isn't it? I really hope this normalizes that. Like the team that I've been on, we've been like that all the way through. Like we've had people remote on and off, and people have had their kids come and go, and cats and dogs, and that's been fine. But a lot of places they're so uptight about it all and being professional. I mean, you remember the BBC News article, that video with the kid coming in and being dragged out again.
Midway through the call,
the embarrassment.
I listened to the Now Show, on BBC. It's Radio 4, isn't it? Yeah, and they've been doing some really quite funny things, where they've had timing issues, where normally when you're in the studio, you can obviously read the expressions and the sort of body language, but of course when you're on video sometimes it doesn't work. So
no.
But you see, that's the thing. I think back to that team, you're right, and yes, you have to have technical skills. Yes, you have to have whatever. But I think fundamentally, as always, it's been the team dynamics. But like you said, just to touch on what you mentioned, I do hope actually that this does normalise things, because and I've heard various sort of stories from different areas that are saying that there's people who just can't work from home, and I understand that, I get that. And even don't want to work from home, and that's fine. But I think this,
Can you hear the swearing going on?
No, I can't. I didn't. I heard something, but
That's why I got directional mic.
I didn't hear the detail.
That's wife versus children.
Ah, yes, wife versus children. But yeah, the fact that I think because it brings into this the whole environment that we're in, that I think, dare I say, it will cut down on travel that is not
hopefully.
always necessary. Yeah, because I know the stuff that I do, I would say a good 70, even 80% of what I do is it's able to be remote. It's only the old-fashioned attitude of face-to-face that I think this will level things out, to be honest. I think it's...
on the being at home note, I am going to have to scoot in a minute because I think it's all going to go nuclear downstairs in a bit.
Yeah, that's fine. That is perfectly okay.
Before I do, there's one other learning that I thought was really great out of this project. Do you remember? So we went through ShapeUp, if you remember, from Basecamp.
Yeah, I did. I was really impressed with that.
Yeah, it was good, wasn't it? It's a great thing and nice to hear a different way of doing things. So our team, I encouraged our team to think about some of the stuff that was in there. And we didn't take the 6-week cycle thing, which I think was right. I don't think that was appropriate for what we were doing. But one thing we did take, I've never understood the no backlog thing because and they promote that really heavily. And I've understood the pain of having a backlog of like this endless pit of things to do that you then like, well, were they really important? Do we want to spend all day going through them to find things that actually mattered? And I've heard them say before, like, well, anything important will bubble up. So we took an approach, which is a bit of an innovation on this project, where we had a Trello. So we used Trello for the normal flying through of cards as they get done. So then we had a personal backlog card.
Right.
So what they mentioned in Basecamp was, each person or department would maintain their list of what they cared about, and then they'd bring them to the shaping up, or they put them on the table to get done. So we've got I say we, I'm not there anymore, but we had a shared Trello board that everybody could see. Each column was someone's name, and that's where you keep everything that was to do. So it was clearly owned by somebody. And then you could prioritize your own list. We added a next sprint label. And then once a week or once every couple of weeks, we'd scan through the board, pick the first few from each person, and say, oh, can you just talk about this? Pick them up, drop them in current sprint, and they'd get done along with everything else. And I have to say, it worked extremely well, and it eliminated the backlog of doom. Oh, that was a great innovation.
That is really clever, because like you say, you don't get this endless pit. You've literally got not a thin veneer, but you know what I mean? Yeah, you've got the top for each, like say, each person. I like that idea. I think that was one of the best things, because then you've really got something that you can focus on. And as you say, you take ownership of, if it gets put into the sprint, that's it. You've brought it there for a reason. It isn't just, it's just another thing on the list. But,
yeah. Right, I am totally out of time. I'm glad we managed to catch up. I will turn this into an episode and send it off to the internet, hopefully once the kids are in bed. I'm going to start worrying about what's next for me, like work-wise on Monday. Is there anything else you want to add before we vanish?
No. Hey, it's a different world. I think, there's a lot of stuff. I think, trying to keep positive, trying to keep happy, definitely. But no, that's brilliant, actually. It was really nice to hear about that, actually. 2 years. I can't believe it's 2 years. Anyway,
it's great to catch up with you, and it's really nice to do it in this format as well.
Yeah.
So we'll do it again soon, yeah?
I'll have a headset next time.
Excellent.
Okay.
Choose a different location as well instead of the Zoom space.
Yeah, Zoom in space. I didn't even know it was still there, actually, but yeah. Hey, good to catch up.
Yeah, likewise. Take care, and goodbye to everyone out there. Bye-bye.
Yeah, indeed. Bye-bye.